I truly believe that anybody can be in a different place that they're at today in 12 months with just being consistent and disciplined with what they want to do.
Welcome everybody to the community inside eXp Realty. My name is Jeff. I'm so excited to see you guys today. This is going to be an awesome session. We've got the one and only Mr. Jason Giles coming to us live from Oregon, talking about 4 top producing strategies or consistencies in your business so that you're not hitting that reboot, reload cycle every 90 days. How do I rebuild this thing and keep climbing the mountain every single time? And that's an exhausting prospect, so we don't want to be doing that. So without any further ado, bring my main man, Jason, up here to talk us through some of the things that are really, really helping to build consistency across people's businesses. And I feel like this has been like the word of the last 12 months for everybody. It's like, we got to get back to basics and let's be consistent. How do we build consistency into our business? So I'm excited to really dig in. And these are top strategies today. So Jason, thanks so much for being here, man. It's so good to see you as always, my friend.
Absolutely. You made this very easy for me now that I know we're live on Facebook too. So, no pressure whatsoever, right?
Yeah, don't slip up. It's captured forever if you do.
Right. So, I'm honored to be able to do these, every 6 weeks or so. And, I got a lot of thoughts into doing these. To me, when we show up to these community links, we're really just remind ourselves of what we need to do, right? There's a reason why we show up to some of the events that we have. There's a reason why, we've gone to Bold for those of us who are with KW. It's a rah for a week, and all of a sudden we're doing awesome and things are great. And there's, closings that are going to be coming up and under contracts. And then all of a sudden, boom, we're wondering what happened, right? We're wondering, okay, what do I got to do? And the problem is because there's no consistency there, right? Well, with the community, every Wednesday at 9 a.m., we've got top producers coming in and they're really sharing their strategies. And really their strategies are things that have been proven for a long time to be successful. And that's really what I wanted to go over today. I'm excited. I'm happy because I'm no digital marketer. However, I finally learned how to change my background on my slides. So we're not going to have the same boring background. It's not all that great. However, it's something new to me, right? So I want to kind of jump into this because it's really reiterating what we have to do. I'm a firm believer and I'm done starting my business over every 3 months. And I'm going to explain throughout this Zoom what I mean by that. I truly believe that anybody can be in a different place that they're at today in 12 months with just being consistent and disciplined with what they want to do. I had something happen last night that I just want to share that was, really, really awesome to me. I have the privilege of coaching my son's basketball team. I'm no basketball player. I'm not great. Luckily, they're 9 years old and they just love to run around because so do I. But last night I got there and one of the players, she's about 9 years old. She comes up and, I always say hi to everybody. Hey, I'm glad you made it. I'm glad you're here. I want them to know that they're a part of this team. And she said, hey, I want to give you something. And she made me a keychain, a small little keychain with a little basketball on it. And I was like, thank you so much. This is awesome. And when we were done and I was telling everybody I was glad that they're there because I reiterate that we're a team, right? Just like the community, we're a team to do this together. I said, hey, have a good night. You good with everything? And she said, yes. I said, okay. She said, hey, where's that keychain? And I pulled it out of my pocket on my keys already. And I showed her where it was. If it was important for her to give that to me, it was important for me to put that on my keychain, right? So what that meant to me is that they're always watching. People are always watching. They're even when we're not in front of them, they're thinking about something we said, something that we did. So be mindful when you're doing that. Bring value to the people you're surrounding yourself with. So part of this is, I say secrets, the real estate secrets. And the funny thing is, and the reason why I say that is because I'm hearing a lot of questions from people about how are you getting leads? What are you doing? How are you doing it? And the reality is there's no secret. We know that there's expireds out there. There's for sale by owners. There's our sphere of influence. So when I say secret, it's kind of a joke, right? It's right there in front of us. So what do we got to do to create our business? How do we not start it over every 3 months? So I'm going to jump into this slideshow. Want to make sure we could see it. Can we see that slideshow there?
Not just yet.
Let me see. Well, maybe I should share my screen first, right? Okay, so this is what I mean by the background. And it's funny because this background was on the right side of my slides and all I had to do was click on it. But I feel excited for being able to do that, right? It's one step closer to being a mastermind digital marketer. So here's what I mean by real estate secrets. Stop starting your real estate business over every 3 months. Can anybody relate to that? Can anybody relate to, we've got closings and then all of a sudden we don't, and we feel like we're starting our business over. If you can relate to that, put that in the chat. Put yes, raise your hands. Yeah, I just want to know if we can relate to the topic we're going to be talking about today.
Looks like Steve says, yep. We've got Linda, yep. Aaliyah, yep. Robin, Liz, Leslie, Barbara. Man, it's a big list. Yes,
Good.
absolutely. Very relatable.
Good. So here's a little bit about me, and I'm sure, a lot of you guys know me. You've seen me here more consistently. I'm excited for all the value that's brought to this. I started real estate about 8 years ago. I feel like I've been in it for about 55 years. But I started about 8 years ago. I was on a team for about 3 years, very valuable, that learned a lot being on the team, made the way over to EXP about 6 years ago. But, the reality is, until about a year and a half ago, I kept starting my business over every 3 months. So, sometimes I wonder, how did I make it, right? How did I do it that first 5.5 years? So I started doing some research. How can I reinvent the wheel? What can I do? And then I realized that there is no wheel to reinvent. It's there. It's right there in front of us. So stop starting your business over every 3 months. Questions I hear when agents are consistently starting their business over. Where can I find leads? Where did your last closing come from? This is stuff I'm hearing a lot this last 12 months. A lot of people are struggling. Can I make payments on my annual dues? Right? I mean, there's a lot of people that are wondering how they're going to pay that, what they're going to do. All I get are bad leads. That's a funny one to me. So bad leads is a lead that comes over with a fake name, no contact information whatsoever. If a lead comes over with any kind of first name, last name, and an email, you've got a good lead. It's how are we working that lead? Want to go to lunch. This one's funny because how many times have we found ourselves going to lunch with a friend of ours and all of a sudden we're there 2.5 hours? We're there, 3 times a week. We're not taking our time seriously. And we're now just kind of wasted on a lunch because we feel like we're self-employed and that this is just going to happen for us. So understanding why we show up. I was talking to Jeff about this before we got into this meeting, and I kind of already shared that. Really, the reason we show up is to be reminded of the things that we need to do that are going to help us stay consistent in our business. So, it's that rah, it's that charge, it's that keep going. I'm here doing a presentation. I have my pen and notepad because I know there's something I will learn today. So keep that in mind. We show up for accountability. I mean, there's a lot of reasons that we do, right? So the next one, things to stay away from. So Jeff, you see the stuff I have on here. What are some of the things that you found that were time suck activities that you realized you had to stay away from?
Well, I definitely anything that's not an income producing activity. And I see that a lot of that going on, right? And we're all guilty of it. I do it still. It's tends to be the temptation of things that we like doing more than the things that where once we do them, we like the result. There's a huge difference there, right? It's the things we tend to go to the behaviors that we like. Like if I liked coloring with crayons in a coloring book, I'd be doing more of that, right? Instead of whatever would actually get me to a paycheck. And ultimately, you'll hear people gripe about the lack of paychecks, but what they're doing isn't aligned with that, right? So I think that's a lot of what we see, that people need to gravitate away from that. And it's, I think the best way to describe it is like pick your hard or pick your pain. You're going to have pain either way. Do something that you don't like or have a result that you don't like. I'd rather have the great result.
Thank you. Thanks for, jumping in and calling you out on that. And it's right. We can relate non-income producing activities to a lot of things, right? So coffee pot talk. What I mean by coffee pot talk is it can be on the phone. It can be over by the coffee pot. It's getting in a huddle there. And this happened all the time in the auto industry. You got into a huddle and you started talking about the last client you're working with, or you started talking about what was going on in the market, or just coffee pot talk. Nothing that was positive that was going to help you grow. Next thing you know, 25 minutes goes by and there's 3 contacts you could have made. There's something you could have done for your business. Conversations that are negative. This one is huge to me. And, I didn't realize this. I was getting involved in negative conversations, and I realized how powerful it is that when we talk to ourselves, that conversation started it. Now we've left that conversation it was negative, and now we're talking to ourselves. So we just waste the time in that conversation, but now we've wasted the time mentally in our headspace that we could have been working on our business. Vendors that call that get off track. This one happens, used to happen all the time. You have a lender that calls up about a transaction. You guys talk about the business. All of a sudden, you're talking about something that is non-related to real estate. Now, this could be a inspector, a contractor, whatever it is. Be mindful of that. Be mindful when that contract, when that conversation gets off track, be mindful to get it back where it needs to be, or just say, hey, you know what, I got to go. Here's what I say a lot when someone starts talking and talking and talking. And now that I'm about to say this, I realize that people say it to me. So I think I'm the one who talks too much, right? But what I'll say is, hey, you know what? I appreciate it. I actually got an appointment in 15 minutes. And then my appointment is I have to get back to my lead gen. I have to get back to whatever it is I'm supposed to be doing in my real estate business. So be mindful of that. We can waste a lot of time in our day by some of these things that just come up. And then before we know it, our day's gotten away from us. Once again, too many lunches, having too many things that are not directly an impact to your business. Don't get me wrong. Go meet with somebody for lunch as far as connecting with them, staying in touch with them. Those are great. But when you're meeting with the same real estate agent or the same title rep, that's a big one. Title reps like to take us out. That's great. Time block that and make sure when you go there with something that you want to ask that's going to help you move your business forward. Time suck activities. There's a ton of them, right? Anything that's not an income producing activity, we want to stay away from. Now, if you want to do this after 5 o'clock, if you want to do it on Saturday at 12 o'clock, go for it. Right. But when it's Monday through Friday, we got to act like this is our job. This is what we came here to do, and we can't waste that time. So this one, I thought this was hilarious. I'll tell you guys, the total truth is I get the agents in my office involved in this before I do it. And I say, hey, what do you think? And they said, Jason, you're going to be up there doing this a lot. This is what you do. You always do this. So they're kind of making fun of me and having some fun with this. But top 4 activities that should be non-negotiable for your business. The road to success is not glamorous. It's extremely boring, so you can live a glamorous life. So I realized in doing real estate, some of these tasks, man, they are just monotonous. Call after call, same things are coming up. And I realized that it's not the glamour I'm looking for while I'm working my business. It's the glamour, use whatever word you want, that I'm looking for because of my business. So can anybody relate to that? Can anybody relate that sometimes it just seems boring? It just seems monotonous.
Absolutely. In fact, I've heard it called the mastery of the mundane is really the road to success, which is a lot of times it's the most arduous, it just feels like I'm pushing this rock up this hill again kind of a behavior. It's the thing that you probably don't want to do is the thing you should be doing. Right. And it's just boring. It's the same thing. How can this possibly be getting me to success? But we know that consistency across time will do it. So I can totally relate.
Awesome. It's funny because to me, something that's even more boring is having to clock in when I'm told to clock in, clock out when I'm allowed to clock out, and having to do whatever I'm told to do by that employer. To me, that's boring. And here's why, because I know that no matter how hard I work or what I do, it's going to be the same every other week for payday on what I'm going to get, right? We have the opportunity to bore ourselves to death to have the life we've always wanted. So moving on, this one's a big one to me. So I'm going to now get into the four different activities. And this is where something in my personal growth, something I started 2 weeks ago, a personal challenge I'm doing. I'm on day 19 as of today. I realized the things I needed to do, and I thought I didn't have enough time to do it. And now I'm finding that I had more than enough time. It was just the choices I made of doing this activity versus a different activity. So when we look at our week, and I made this real simple, we all have the same 168 hours a week. I learned this from Grant Cardone's book, 40 hours of work. I'm going to say, I'll be the first one to say, I probably don't work 40 hours a week in real estate. I probably should, but I don't. Right? So 40 hours of work, 40 hours of play, 60 hours of sleep. That's plenty time to sleep throughout the week. 28 hours of miscellaneous. So, looking at this, I hope that this is some kind of an eye opener. Does this kind of, show that, we do have the time? And this is the eye opener to say, what are we doing with our time? Where are we missing the boat? Because I could tell you where I was missing the boat, and that goes back to the coffee pot talk. That goes back to the lunches. That goes back to all the things that weren't income producing activities that I should have been doing in my business. So, when you're doing your time block, this is what I would encourage everybody to do. Start your calendar off with your vacations and your time off. That should be non-negotiable for you. You need that. Your vacations, your time off, what you want to do, time block, whatever your activities you're doing with your family, your kids, whatever it may be, get in there and do it. So I'm going to share what my day looks like. And this isn't for everybody, right? Unfortunately, guys, I'm reading a David Goggins book. So he's trying to motivate me more, but I'm not asking you guys to do this, okay? So I get up at 4:30, 5 a.m. I go to the gym. 6:15, I'm on a Zoom call with JJ and we're doing role play. 7 o'clock, I get the kids up, we get ready. 8 o'clock, drop off all the kids. 9:15. Now I say 9:15 because we have a 13-year-old that sometimes needs to do his hair a little bit longer. So it takes us longer to get out of the house. But I'm in the office at 9 o'clock. And then now once I'm in the office, I'll be honest, there's times I find myself saying, why am I doing this? I have to get back to my income producing activities, right? But I have plenty of time. Now I go to bed between 8:30 and 9, so I still get good sleep. But I realized that if I wanted to challenge myself, I was going to have to find that time, which meant getting up earlier. Now, I'm not saying get up at 4:30, but maybe if you get up at 6, get up at 5:45. If you get up at 7, get up at 6:45. A little bit of time would make that difference. So time blocking is huge. If you don't time block, then everything else isn't going to come into place, because you need to know what activities you're going to do. Now, if you're time blocking your activities and you decide that you're going to do something else, you have to adjust that day, whatever you were time blocked to do. So if all of a sudden you have to run to a property, because that happens, and that took you an hour and you were supposed to be lead generating, then you have to get into your calendar before you leave, put that lead generating to a different time that day, and make sure you stick to it. So any questions or any comments on time block or where people have struggles, anything on time blocking?
Jason, I'm curious. So in your own time block experience with what you're doing, you arrive at the office, you were saying 9:15, depending on hairdos. And then once you're there, what's happening the second? So you hit the office, what's next? Right? Like, is it straight into lead gen? Is it what? Because I know you've already done your role play prior to being in the office, right? Mm-hmm. And then I see we have a hand up in a second. Jason.
Yeah. So, and that's why, so I'm going to go back to, that's why we come into these, right? Because I'm not perfect, guys. There's times I come in and I veer off, but getting ready for this presentation, reiterate to me what I have to do, why I have to do it. So I'm not going to restart my business in May. So when I get in the office, my time block is, depending on what we have that day, it's either, I either have attraction Zooms that are set up because I have my Calendly link. I've time blocked my lead generating less than most people because we have a VA now that does that for us. So I've leveraged that off. And really, when I'm in the office, it's follow up with clients that we have. And then lately, we've been looking into a lot of different resources that we can do that's going to be a benefit to our team. So typically,
nice. So it's still build related activities, though, from the second that you drop.
Correct. And every now and then, me and the team, we have our 5-10 minute powwow. We let it out because you have to do that. And then we get back to it. But typically when we're in this office setting, it is, we are working on what we could do for our business, and it may not actively be doing lead generating or lead follow-up, but it may be conversation of what we need to do. So that's Christine, awesome. Go for it.
Hey, so, it's a great topic that you brought up on time blocking and time management. It's funny, we just actually went over this like 2 days ago. Thinking about, okay, January's gone, we're into February, and the year's already moving along. We're already in the second month of the first quarter, and how are we doing on our time, and where is it already allocated? So we actually kind of worked our way backwards, because if you actually look at your Monday through Sunday and you have your week laid out, and you actually plug in all the commitments that you've already made to yourself on your calendar, and realize all the personal commitments that you've made, and the open hours that you actually have available to work, and you calculate those out, you're going to already see how much time you've actually allotted yourself right now for work, and where adjustments actually need to be made. Because we can all talk about how much we want to get started in the morning and get going for the day, and then things happen. We're not looking at our calendar, but how many commitments do we already have on there when we wake up to when we go to bed, personal to business, and literally side by side daily, how many hours, calculate those out for the week. And then you realize that you're not working as often as you should. So how are you going to meet your goals that you've set for the year? And you wonder why you didn't meet them, or you didn't really allocate the time for them or the activities. So it's great that you brought that up, because we're gearing down on that right now. It's a bunch of ahas in the meeting we just had about the personal commitments that are in there and how it's taking away from the business time.
100%. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because all too often with our time block and we let those personal commitments happen, right? Then we have to reflect and look back and say, okay, well, I didn't need to do that, right? That wasn't something that should have been there. And then what goes back to me is, if I clocked in somewhere, I couldn't decide at 11:16 and 32 seconds to go do something personal, right? I would have to be there. And that's the way we have to look at our business and our time block. Time blocking is a struggle. It's a struggle for a lot of people. And here's what I have to consistently tell myself. If I decide not to do something on my time block, I've allowed myself to disappoint myself on what needed to be done for that day. So I heard this yesterday, and it resonated very, very well. Once again, be careful. I'm listening to David Goggins, a lot of motivational stuff. So you guys are going to get it all in the next hour. My circumstances do not change my responsibilities. Whatever is happening right then, if I get a flat tire on the way to work, if something comes up in the morning that I got an email that just really put me in the wrong headspace, that does not change my responsibility of what I need to do that day for my business, for my future, for my family. And 1 second, Bill, because I'd love to hear what you have to say. But, with this, I got this from one of the motivational things I was looking at yesterday, or listening to, and the guy was talking about how on his way to work, he got traffic, then he ended up getting a flat tire. He got to work about 15 minutes late, and he started telling his boss that he really looks up to all of the reasons why he didn't get there on time. And the boss put his hand up and he said, hold on. He said, your circumstances do not change your responsibilities. What could you have done different? And he said, you know what? I could have left 30 minutes earlier to make sure I was sitting at my office before I had to be there. So that, for what that is, our circumstances cannot change our responsibilities. And the more we take our responsibilities, very, very serious, which I know a lot of us do, right? We'll realize that in the future, we start having more time freedom. We start having more wealth. We start really, whatever we're building on today is for us to have that comfort down the road. Go for it, Bill.
Hey, I just wanted to point out something that you kind of breezed over. I tried the time blocking and I sucked at it. It's just one of those things I keep failing at, but I'm going to keep doing it. And your conversation today is definitely motivating me. But one thing that you breezed over was your appointment with JJ. Having that accountability partner, I think, is really the key in there, because you're tied to that. It's kind of like the gym thing. If you go into the gym yourself, you're going to skip. But if you've got somebody there that's expecting you to be there, you're going to show up. So I just want to highlight that. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, Bill, we're great friends. We've hung out. I think we did a Halloween party together. So I'm going to ask you a quick question, and let me just have some fun with you. You are retired military, correct?
I am, yes.
Okay. So in the military, there was no choice for you when you had to be there, what you had to do, right? So
no, absolutely not.
That's my tough love to you. And this is why we come into this, right? When and the military was phenomenal. It's done a lot of, thank you for everything you've done for us. I cannot imagine,
I gotta tell you, it's a hard transition going from that to being on your own, because, I'm getting a little fatter right now. I'm not going to the gym. I'm not doing all the things that I just did, because you don't have excuses when you don't show up to work. I mean, you just don't don't do that. You know what I mean? Like, there's no, oh, this came up, that came up. You're there. And that's 100%, and it's never questioned. You're where you're supposed to be all the time, and just kind of having that structure in there is really, really key.
No, and I love it, and I appreciate you letting me pick on you a little bit. If I didn't care about you, I wouldn't do that, right? But I'm in the same thing. I still have it's still a struggle for me, because we were at a point. No calling in sick. That's right, Joe. We were at a point where you knew you had to show up because there was consequences, right? And unfortunately with us, and that's what I mean by starting our business over every 3 months, is that those consequences don't happen the day that we decide to do something different. Those consequences happen 3 months down the road. So, understanding that in your time block would really help you stay on track of what you need to do. Joe made a comment here, and I remember one thing that he said is that when he was running a team in the mortgage industry, and he could correct me if I'm wrong, that anything that was not directly related to what they had to do that was going to be income generating activities in the office, he would do after 6 or 7 o'clock at night. Now, the reason I say that is because if we do this right, we're not going to have to do it for 10 years. If we sacrifice some of that time and put that in our time block, in 10 years with what we have with EXP, I love it. We can be in a place to where we have more time flexibility. So anybody else got some comments on time blocks or maybe something that they've done, throw it in before we move on. Can you still see my screen?
Nope. You got to do a reshare.
There we go.
You're the man.
Okay.
Now you're muted. Sorry, that's my bad.
That's all good. Time block is huge. If we're not going to time block the next 3 activities and stay committed to it, we're going to consistently start our business over every 3 months. And guess what? I'm talking from experience. I'm talking from feeling like the richest agent ever to feeling like, McDonald's had a help wanted sign. What do I have to do? Right. So, there's some extremes there, but that's the reality sometimes. So, moving on to the next one here. Now, once again, we're reiterating everything that we know we need to do in our business. That's why we show up. We want to get pumped up again. What can we do? How can we do it? How are other people doing it successfully? It was an eye-opener to me in the last 3 months when I was scrambling. We have a team. How do I get more leads? What can I do? How can I do it? I'm calling for sale by owners, but there's only 4 that are available, and they're the same 4 that's been in my area for the last 6 months, right? Because they don't sell unless they have us to help. Then I realized that for sale by owners are also in Arkansas. They're also in Tampa. They're in Washington. What stops us from calling up, starting up that conversation and referring that off to an agent in that area? So, I'm hoping that this opens up and expands a little bit. If we're looking for leads, and sometimes it's tougher as a newer agent, or even if we just haven't really worked our business the way we know we should have, and we're still trying to find those, there's leads everywhere. Right? We can get them. So when you're out, Joanne, I love it. When you're out, you mentioned real estate in some way. So I'm going to put you on the spot here. What do you do when you're at the grocery store? What do you say?
So I have to be honest. Have really gotten rusty at doing this, but when I was a young agent, hungry, I should get back to this because I'm hungry again, but every question that anyone ever asks you, you start with, well, I'm a realtor. So if you're at the grocery store, what do you use? Guy asked me, what do you use butternut squash for? And I go, well, I'm a realtor. So I'm putting on a realtor tour tomorrow, lunch for all the realtors, and I'm making pumpkin soup. And so and he says, oh, well, I need to sell my house in the Meadows. Why don't you come list it? I mean, you're checking out at the grocery store and the clerk says, how are you doing today? And I said, well, I'm a realtor. So I just got done selling 12 houses and I'm exhausted. Or I'm a realtor. So I got to get out into that sunshine today, which was awesome. Or, well, I'm a realtor. So whatever the question is, you answer with, well, I'm a realtor. So, and inevitably someone will say, oh, my elderly neighbor needs help. Can I have your card? Because she needs to sell her house. She shouldn't be there alone, whatever it is. So the other thing I did one time was I saw somebody drive down the road with a California license plate, and I literally flagged them down and said, hey, you're from California. Do you want to look at property? And they said yes. And I sold them a house up in Glide, and then I listed and sold their house again. It doesn't matter. All you have to do is, my cold calling is out and about. I'm never on the phone doing this. If I have to cold call, I go to the grocery store and talk to somebody.
That's why I put you on the spot, Joanne. And I appreciate you sharing that with us, because every time I'm out now, I think it's funny. Certain things will happen in my life that reminds me of somebody. So now when I'm at the grocery store buying something, I'm like, hey, Joanne, in my head, right? Because I remember what you shared, right? So,
and that's totally different from going around going, hey, I'm a realtor. Do you know anybody that's looking to buy or sell? Excuse me, I'm a realtor. Do you know that's completely different? Like they're engaging you, you're answering their question with an interesting thing that you had to do today in your business.
I love it. And John, I'm going to get to you right now. I love it that you do that, because what I got from that last statement is that there's a reason why you're asking, like the California license plate. Hey, you're from California. Are you looking to buy or sell a home? Whatever it is that you're asking, but you had a reason to do that because you've seen the license plate, right? I live in a brand new construction neighborhood that they're still building, and I go on walks, and if I see people driving slowly, I'm waving them down. And at first they say, I don't need my windshield clean. I say, no, that's not what I'm looking at, but I just say, hey, you're driving around. Are you looking at homes in the neighborhood? So I love it when we're out. If there's a reason that we could prompt to say that, then ask them, hey, how can I help you? We're professionals. It'd be a value for them to have any one of us as their agent. Go for it, John.
I love what Joanne's saying. And one of my friends gosh, she's a great realtor. She's like 80 years old. And she goes back to this rule that's called the 3-foot rule. Has anybody ever heard the 3-foot rule? People always say, I don't know who the prospects are. I don't know who to talk to. And her deal was, I never run out of people because anybody that's in 3 feet of me figures out that I'm a real estate agent. She's not shy. And, Jake Rockwell, says all the time, it's a contact sport business. It's like football. If you're not hitting people, you're not doing your job. In this, it's contact of touching people. And we want to make it complicated, like Joanne said, of like, I don't want to reach up the phone and call people. That's great. We still have to talk to people. And my friend Carol was like, hey, it's 3 feet. If you're in the grocery line at the store, maybe it isn't always someone, saying, what are you getting that peanut butter for? That's great. Might just be in line and turn around every person you talk to. I love this. You're not a secret agent. The older we get in the business, sometimes the more deals we've done, the less we want to talk to people because we've done so many and we've done it so long. But when we're trying to build our businesses, we have to realize we're not secret agents. Everybody's got to know what we do, whether you know them or not. And if you're worried about whether they're going to be offended that you said hello and I'm a real estate agent, then you're probably not in the right business. Because if they get offended at that, life goes on. You've got to feed your family. And I think that's what you're talking about too, is we have to create that sense of urgency. And when that sense of urgency over time brings in more deals, and over time you've created more referral business that you've actually worked, then you don't have to have that same impetus.
No, I love it, John. And it's true, and I find myself even 9 years into the business kind of doing the same thing, right? It doesn't mean we have to be 25 years in. We kind of stopped doing the things that we knew were successful for us. And, and I learned this when I was on the team. If somebody would say, how's real estate, when they know that you're in real estate, name tags are big. I need to order them. I don't have them. Let people know what you do. If someone says, hey, how's real estate? Fascinating. Why do you ask? Fantastic. Why do you ask? Like, just answer that question. Hey, why do you ask? What makes you curious? So here's the way we look at this. And this is just one part of it. I'm going to spend a little bit more time on lead generating because this is where we get our business. Okay. I'm going to get into what we could do to continue to have that business, but I'm going to spend some time here because, if we help a client, studies show, and I could be wrong, I make up a lot of statistics on the spot. So who knows, right? However, if you help somebody that next year, them or somebody they know is going to need help in real estate, they're going to have potentially 3 real estate needs. Now, sometimes that need is that they're looking at refinance. You should still be their first point of contact, right? You should still be the one to follow up with them. So let's take that and make it a little bit bigger picture. When you're at the grocery store and you have 10 people you walk by that were within 3 feet of you, I'm not saying talk to all of them, but in your head, that's not just one potential transaction, but that's 4 transactions. And once again, it would be of value if they had any one of you as their agent. So when you're looking at somebody and you're in the middle of a transaction, this one's big to me, whether it's a $40,000 manufactured home or a $4 million home, that is your client. Love their client. Just like on the last, community that we had, like the movie with Tommy Boy, whatever that movie was, and you love it and you hold it and you do. I mean, that was hilarious, but it's true. You want to love on that client. You want to give value to that client. Don't rip them apart. Want to keep them together, right? But know that there's a lot of value in that. We have a funny joke here in the office with one of the agents that anybody under $100,000, he's our man. Anybody over $100,000, he doesn't want to touch it. He's like, nope, can't do it. Not my wheelhouse, right? It's kind of a joke. But those $100,000 clients or those $50,000 clients, they, sometimes you don't know, they may be transitioning and they may just call you up and say, hey, I'm paying cash for this manufactured home. It's 50 grand. Love on them, take care of them, treat them like anybody else, because they could potentially say, hey, I'm just buying this because I need a transition. Once things settle down with whatever the situation is, I'm looking at buying a home. I just need a place for now. And we're doing that with a client right now. So everybody you have is golden, So going back to some lead generating activities, and I'm going to ask this question. When someone says go lead generate, what's the first lead generating activity that comes to your mind? What is it that you believe that you would need to or have to do with lead generating? So for example, if someone said to me, you have to go lead generate, and my first thought is I have to make calls. What's your first thought when someone says you have to go lead generate? What's the first thing you think you have to do? Put it in the chat, raise your hand, unmute if you want. But I'm wondering what that first thought is that comes to your head when somebody says go lead generate.
I see somebody wrote VA, prop wire, make phone calls, contact past clients, hit your sphere. I would say door knock.
Okay, so there's a good variety of what we believe for lead generating. And
Joe says text everyone. Open houses from John.
Right, awesome. So there's when we think lead generating, and when I first got into real estate and I was on a team and learning and growing, I thought lead generating was I just had to make calls. Right. And then I learned more and taught more. And, the reality is a lot of people are afraid to pick up that phone. It's a 500-pound gorilla. They got to make the call on what's going to happen. I'm going to throw this out there. I encourage anybody to hop in, maybe not this Thursday, but next Thursday to the Agent Attraction. Not even if you're looking at doing that, but what me and JJ did with our role play that we do in the morning is we actually reported some cold calls that we were making. So if you want to hear some live cold calls on what's happening and what we're doing, hop on in. It's really not as scary as it seems, but here's what I'm getting to. Pick something that you feel you could be passionate about and do that. If to me, mailers is something that you would do once a week, right? So if you're going to do that, make sure you do it once a week. You do it consistently. Emails. Now, once again, reading a lot of these books. Just got done reading Way of the Wolf, Jordan Belfort, and he talks about emails and how that can be productive for your lead generating activity. And I would encourage at least to look up that chapter because he talks about the algorithm on what you put in the subject line, how long the email is, how short it is, and all of this stuff is so it doesn't get flagged as spam. So right now, part of your lead generating may be sending out emails, but you may be putting the wrong headline, subject line to where it's come across as spam. So educate yourself on that. So lead generating to me, and I'm going to go back to the leads and kind of going back and forth here, but there's leads everywhere. Okay. If you're not with Express Offers, look into Express Offers, because when we drive to work, we can see 1, 2, maybe 4 houses that need a new roof. They need, the grass is way overgrown, just something that indicates that house, they may not be able to afford what needs to happen, which means they may need to sell. So you can make that part of your lead generating that you are targeting to be able to help people sell their home if they're in a tough position. The reason why I say that, and we're starting to work on that here in the office, is because we have wholesalers in our area, and I'm sure a lot of you guys do too. Now, I'm not knocking what wholesalers do. I'm not saying that they don't take care of clients. I'm not saying that. However, I do feel like it's more of a benefit for a homeowner to have a licensed professional real estate agent helping sell their home that's not making potentially 30 to 50 grand from switching paper, right? So those homes are already being targeted. Why don't we take the time to do that? Door knock on those. So, going into this, at the bottom, I put CRM 3 times. And the reason why is because our CRM is our gold mine. That's everything that we need to be time blocked to make sure that we have it up to date. We actually just hired a company that is coming in and they're going to revamp it. They're going to put the right campaigns. They're going to put people in the right category. They're going to be making calls because that's our huge leverage tool. Okay. I mean, it's complete leverage for lead generating. If you have your CRM working the way that we can, you're essentially lead generating 7 days a week, 24 hours a day with what this CRM does for you. So if you're a tech person and you love that stuff, get in there, dive in, make sure it's doing what it should be doing to leverage that off. and you will get calls, you will get emails back when the right material is going out to these clients. So anybody that has been doing anything with lead generating that they found successful that they want to share, I would love to hear it, because I could use that. Jeff?
Well, absolutely. And in fact, I was just going to grab it. I have a document that we have here inside the community. And by the way, for anyone who doesn't know, one of the true value adds of being at eXp Realty and associated with the community is that you get a core collaborative group of leaders who all put content together. I know that we have a document. I'm going to find it really quickly and put it in the chat here for everybody. And we'll put it also in the replay inside the community center for all of our members. But is that we have a comprehensive list of no upfront fee lead services. And by the way, something that Joanne wrote in the chat that I completely agree with is you need to find alignment, meaning something that you are actually going to do and are willing to do that aligns with who you are, how you feel about doing business, etc. If you're super relational and rejection is the worst thing ever, cold calling is going to be a devastation for you. If you like getting in there, doing some boxing every day, and that's exciting for you, then go that route. That's awesome. And everything in between. But I am going to put this in the chat here in a second. I just need to find it, but no upfront fee, because these companies have been creeping up. And what I can say is there's no such thing as one company that's going to like save your life here. Sorry, spotlight. There we go. And there's no such thing as one company that's going to like answer all your questions, but I think we've got 12 on this list. And what can happen here, for anyone who doesn't know, is there's been a creep up of a lot of these lead aggregator companies that now come in. They offer leads to agents for a percentage. And I've had people be like, oh, they don't work. Yes, they do. I've seen new agents go to 17 to 25 transactions in their first year just using these services. So I know that it can work, but you still have to work them, right? It's like a job. It's still like a job. Here's the thing to remember. If you might be telling yourself, well, but I have to pay 30, 35%, 40%. I don't know what these lead aggregators charge. Maybe it's even 50%, right? That's 50% of a transaction you wouldn't have otherwise. And my perspective, just like what Jason said, is that person also knows 3 people in the next 12 months who need to do something in real estate. You get the lifetime value of that customer. Remember that the job that you have in business is lead generating to create, listen to this carefully, past clients. That's why you lead generate every day, is to create past clients. Past clients are what create an awesome business in real estate. And until you have those, and by the way, have kept track of them, you don't have a business yet. You have what Jason's talking about today, which is that restart, recycle thing where it feels like, why am I back at the starting line again? Hilarious for anyone who didn't see it. It was like 3 days ago or 2 days ago. There was this huge ice skating race. And one of my friends sent this to me. It was really fascinating. At the beginning of this is a speed skating race, like 12 laps around this huge track indoor. And there was this gal from China at the very beginning of the race, took out like an absolute bat out of hell. And by the way, most people apparently on this race, they'll take the first 6 to 8 laps and they'll go pretty slow. No, she was going like insanity fast. And apparently everyone just lost track of it in the entire race. And what she did is she lapped everybody and then she hung out right behind all of them. Why am I telling you this? I'll tell you in a second. I promise I'm going to tie it all together. She finished the race, what looked like last. They all thought they had just won the race. Nope. She just won the race from what looked like last place. And sometimes what we don't realize is that we're actually building something for a delayed return. That's what I'm talking about here. So when you are working with a client, whether it's you're paying OpCity 35% or whatever the heck they're charging now, it doesn't matter because you're building a past client relationship. And we've been trying to hammer this home, and I want to make sure that that's obvious. Let me put this in the chat and make way for somebody else here to jump in with some additional lead gen options. By the way, you guys can just unmute if you want to, just so everyone knows. You don't have to like raise your hand.
I was going to mention something just to go off of that, what Jeff said. I'm a big fan of, working your CRM. And to me, I don't think there is such thing as a bad lead. That drives me crazy because I go into these, chat places in Facebook with real estate agents, and all I do is complain about how every single item in there doesn't work. And some of them, maybe they don't. I don't know. Maybe they're scams. But if you get a person with a name and you have a way to contact them, there is money to be made in there eventually. Or some of my best clients I've gotten from somebody who I've never done a deal with. It's turned into some of the biggest stuff I've ever. I got a developer builder in Oregon that was one of the biggest in the state of Oregon, and he signed up with me. Eventually, we got to be friends over somebody I'd never done a deal with. I literally did hundreds of deals with that person over the years. And I used to train this in my office and get in big arguments with all our agents about this. And I said, you guys, I could leave this training right now, start walking down the street, and JJ's on here. I used to tell JJ this all the time. And I could go just start talking to people, and I can get business. I'll get a deal. Like, if you don't have a deal, you can do anything. But I also like what Joanne said. I really think it needs to be specific. There's a lot of things on here that we can do that work for some people, and our personalities just keep us from doing it. I mean, I'm not a super person to go do what Joanne does and talk to somebody in the store. Never done it ever in my career. Does it work? Heck yeah, it works. It just isn't for me. And we all have those different things. So finding like what actually really works for you, and then like doing it right. But I don't care what lead gen source you pick. It works if you do it right. That's all there is to it. But anyway.
100%.
I have a success story. I probably lean towards Joanne's mentality. I'll talk to anyone who will talk back. And maybe it's because I'm from the South. But anyway, I like to go to yard sales, garage sales. Saturday, our neighborhood is very organized. They host a neighborhood sale every summer, and the neighborhood to my east does the same thing. It's a very high-end neighborhood. So I'll get out and go talk to those folks. Well, one time, my prior neighborhood, I just walked into this guy's garage. We start talking, hit it off. He wanted my card, and I started sending them listings. And no kidding, a year later, he said, Steve, my wife just saw a house. She has got to have it. And it didn't turn out to be the house, but ended up selling them a house in the upper 700s. And then we put their immaculate home on the market for 600. So because of that conversation, I wandered into their sale, struck up a really good conversation, and now we're deep, lifelong friends. But that was 1.2 million in sales right there.
I love that. Hey, we've also got Raymond and Joanne's hands up, just so in case you can't see that stuff, Jason.
Go for it. Yeah, Raymond, I think you were up, and then Joanne, love to get to you too. What's going on, Raymond?
Cool. Yeah. So as a new agent, I just wanted to kind of point out some things that I'm working on that might help the community. As Joanne knows, is my mentor. She is awesome. I couldn't have asked for a better mentor. And I think that it was definitely appointed to me to have her as my mentor. So again, shout out to her. So thank you, Joanne, for all your help. Some things that are working for me, as I used to be a wholesaler nationwide. I consider myself going from the dark side to the light. And so things that I was doing before that I'm seeing as a new agent that I'm transitioning from I was transitioning from wholesaling, basically focusing on, who's going to agree to sell me their house with the intent to make a profit on it. And really, it just became all about money and about those contracts that were assignable. As I developed into being a real estate agent, I understood that there are right ways and wrong ways to do it, definitely. So now, as I developed into a real estate agent, I feel, because there are some phone calls that I made as a wholesaler that I think would bring tears to anybody's eyes. And having to know that as an income source, you have to continue on this process to make your money. And I couldn't do it any longer. So now in my local Facebook groups, I post, why I'm a realtor, why I want to help people find those homes. And I think as long as you let your heart show your purpose in your business, I think the leads and the income will follow. Just so long as what you're doing, your heart's in the right place. And whatever that might be, whether, you're being honest with helping people find the right home, right location, the right price, and making sure that the terms that they may not be aware of are falling into, prosperity for them in the long run.
That's awesome, man. You do have a great man. Every time someone tries to assign me as a mentor, I say, go call Joanne, right? I can't keep up with her. So I thank you for sharing that, because that goes back to what we're talking about, right? Loving on the clients, taking care of the clients. So I appreciate you sharing that, Raven. Joanne, go for it.
Okay, they're jackhammering all around our building, so hopefully you can hear me. I wanted to reiterate the thing about doing what suits you, because I can listen all day long about time blocking. And yes, I know I need to do that, but or cold calling, I know I'm not going to do that. So I don't even give that any thought. But just want to give this example. I was on a icon panel in the Oregon State room one day. There was 4 of us, and they were talking about what made you successful. And I'm just going real quick because of how different they are and how each person had to do what they felt good about. Mine was, you already heard it, go to the grocery store and talk about butternut squash. One of them was cold calling, 4 hours a day. Don't stop until you've made 100 phone calls, blah, blah, blah. That just made me want to barf. One of them was pop buys. I get little jars of honey with a little wooden stick, and it says, get a sweet deal or something. And I go around to 100 businesses and I'm like, okay, I would never have the wherewithal or organization or anything to do any of that. So that wouldn't work for me. And the 4th one was Liz, who's in part of our community. And she said she moved to a town where she knows no one, bought a lead gen program that she couldn't afford, and then forced herself to do that to pay for the program that she couldn't afford. And that made her a real, that launched her business. Okay. So I'm not going to do any of those 3 things, but yet I'm an icon agent. Liz is an icon agent. Maybe she doesn't know how to do cold calls. The other guy who does calls doesn't want to go to the grocery store like you. So what I'm saying is, don't latch on to something that in your soul, is hell. Like, don't do what is hell to you. Do what works for your personality and what is natural to you. And that's what's going to bring success for each individual. Don't think that because you can't do cold calls, you can't be successful in real estate, because I've never made one. I've never called one expired. I've never called one for sale by owner in 20 years. And yet this is my career, and it's been a blessing. So I'm just saying that so people don't get discouraged to thinking that they have to fit into, a square peg in a round hole or whatever. You don't have to.
Joanne, I want to say thank you, because that's really, and you really did this for me. You hit home. That's what I'm trying to get at with this lead generating. There's multiple ways we can lead generate. Pick what works for you. Pick what you can be consistent with and that you're going to want to do. If you don't like picking up the phone, don't pick up the phone, but just understand your numbers. So that was powerful, Joanne. Thank you. Joanne, the Jackhammer Graham, I appreciate that. Go for it, Joe.
Hey, buddy. So, I'm kind of a hard ass. So,
kind of.
I do want to second what Joanne said. I used to vet icon agents as part of the cultural thing, and everybody that was an icon, nobody did it the same way. So it was totally cool to always find that everybody was doing things differently. However, whenever I'm coaching new agents, I always say it takes 3 things to be successful in the business: integrity, work ethic, and confidence. And if you don't have integrity, get the hell out. If you don't have, work ethic, you're not going to make it. And then confidence, I see guys that have been in the business 15, 20 years that still don't have the confidence to be successful. But we can sit there and talk about lead gen and everything else like that over and over and over again, and being true to who you are and sticking in your own lane, and you got to be comfortable. It all comes down to effort, though. You can't sit there and say, well, I do mine on open houses. And so I did an open house for 2 hours on Saturday and another 2 hours on Sunday, and I didn't get any leads this week, but that's my jam. No, you got to be busting your ass in this business. If you don't want to talk to people in the store, that's fine, but just be aware that that person that's in the store might end up in social media later on and then finds their realtor. If you don't want to be on social media, you missed them in the store, you missed them in social media. Are you going to wait until they, what are they? You're going to wait till they have their house listed and you're going to try to hit them as a FISBO? Are you going to wait until you're in an open house? If you're not working nonstop, then you're not doing this business. So many people think they're working and they're not freaking working. I went to Cabo last Tuesday. I had so much shit to do on Monday. It was insane. I wanted to sit there and I wanted to tell everybody about what I'd accomplished on Monday, except I'm thinking, why don't I accomplish this every day? One, I would die. But the fact that I got that much stuff done in a day was stupid. And it's because I put forth so much freaking effort on that getaway day that if I did that every single day, I'd make like $8.9 million a year in real estate. But I'm not. So I just think that so many people sit there and say, well, I want to do this. I want to do that. I only do this. I'm not comfortable with this. Well, then what the hell are you doing between 7 o'clock and 6 o'clock? And I didn't say 9 and 5 or 8 and 4 or 10 and 2 or whatever your real estate schedule is. What are you doing to create an income for your family? So that's cool to pick everything you want to do as long as you're being continually active all day long. And real quick, one more thing. In the book, The Greatest Salesman in the World, he says the day does not end at a prescribed time. It ends when you make the sale. So that means at 5 o'clock, you don't just go home and say, honey, I tried. I mean, you sit there and you have to freaking kill something that day. I mean, if you're a caveman, bring home some food. You didn't say, I fish, everybody else is eating, and I didn't do very good today. You better go kill something, or you better pick freaking plants. I mean, you better come home with something. So work harder. That's it.
You are kind of a hard ass sometimes. Most of the time you're really soft, but this is why I wanted to spend most of the time on lead generating, because he's right. Joanne's right. If we're going to say open houses that's what we're going to do, and you do one every week, then that's not what you do, right? You do. I mean, there's success stories on here of people who got to a place where if they didn't have mass action, they were going to be getting out of the business, and they decided, I'm doing open houses. And they did it on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. And the other 2 days, they were preparing for the next week's 4 to 5 days of open houses. That's lead generating. That's taking mass action. And I'm going to say this before we move on. One of the things I struggled with in my business, and I'm finally learning this, is I stopped picking something and saying I'm going to commit to that until I understand what that task took. What do I have to do? If I'm going to commit to that, what does that mean? If I'm going to do open houses, I'm not putting a sign out front and doing a small video and then saying, oh man, nobody showed up. Is it 20 signs? Is it social media? Is it door knocking? I mean, understand the task that you're going to pick. So I'm not saying to anybody on here, pick something from this list or something you've heard and go after it. Pick something, educate yourself on it, understand the numbers, understand how much you have to do to generate the income in the business that you want. So all of this is powerful. Lead generating is huge. We have to do that in our business. We have to. So pick what you love to do, educate yourself on it, and do it mass action. And remember, every time you decide not to do it today, you're telling yourself that 90 days from now, you're okay to not have income. And then if you decide not to do it tomorrow, then 91 days from now, you decide not to have income. That's the purpose of starting over every 3 months. Whatever we decide today is going to have that impact 3 months from now. So I'm going to move on to the next one here. But I mean, we go over time block. Now we went over lead generating. Time block is, some people struggle with it. Some people don't like using it, but they understand the activities they have to do, and that's fine. Time block is something that really helps keep us, top of mind of what we need to do. And don't get me wrong, once again, I'm still working on that, right? It's a progress all the time, especially when I threw in my Calendly link. I was like, uh-oh, I forgot to update that over here. Now I've got 6 appointments at 2 o'clock. So time block, lead generate. Once again, we're reiterating what we know we have to do in our business. So I'm going to share my screen and then move on. And yes, we've heard all of this before. Just want to make it hit home. And I love all of the participation and feedback. It really helps. So the next one here, lead generate. Okay, go on appointments. Now, when we're going on, a real appointment, if someone says, yeah, I think I can meet you next Tuesday at 11, that's not an appointment. An appointment is someone who says, yes, next Tuesday, 11 o'clock, here's the invite. They accepted the invite. You're going to go on that appointment. The reason why I threw this one in here is because if you lead generate, and you're not setting up appointments, then you're not going to get the business, right? You've got to be setting up these real appointments. When someone says, I got somebody who said that we could possibly come by on Saturday to look at their house. Okay, well, let me know when that's a real appointment, because I don't want to take my whole Saturday away from something else I might be doing for something that's not really an appointment. I was coaching with a coach, Sean Kokoska, a long time ago. And what he did with his team, and this was, I share this all the time on the community, is everybody who came in, they did role play from 8:30 to 9. And from 9 to 11, they did their lead generating activity. And it was 20 contacts. Whatever they chose to do, it was 20 contacts. And he said, after that, you can go do whatever you want. Well, guess what? Since they were doing the lead generating activity, they couldn't go do whatever they wanted, because now they have an appointment at 3 o'clock. Now they have an appointment tomorrow at 2 o'clock, because they did that activity and they set those appointments. So, we were talking to, and I don't know if he was able to make it on here, but Alex Fernandez, he's awesome agent. He's been just really killing it lately. And he's been really just buckling down on what he loves to do. I joke with him because I've been trying to get him to go to coffee with me, and he always says he doesn't have time. I walked over to local coffee shop, and lo and behold, he was there with somebody else, and I was upset. However, I asked him later when he was done with that appointment. I called him up. I said, "Hey, buddy, what's going on?" Because he and I collaborate a lot. He said, I had an appointment to meet with a client that was from his sphere to talk about what she wanted to do with real estate. That's what works for him, is setting that appointment to get right there face to face. And now he's helping that client buy a house. So when we're looking at appointments, they need to be real dialed in appointments with your sphere, appointments with new. I'm just naming off some of the things that would be considered appointments that would be good for our business. So new business, sold clients, too many agents are not having appointments scheduled to be able to meet with their sold clients after the sale. And that's one of the places that we're dropping the ball. I'm dropping the ball, is that, we should be setting up an appointment with them. And that appointment doesn't have to be about business, but it's an appointment that you'll learn in the next slide why it's important, right? Have an appointment scheduled to go have coffee. Have an appointment scheduled to go meet them at their house, whatever that is. You need to be setting appointments. That needs to be top of mind when you're working on your lead generating. If you're not working on setting the appointment, we're missing part of the boat. Okay, we're on the Titanic and we haven't gotten that far down yet, right? So you got to be setting appointments. Business partners. I think it's important to meet with business partners, but put a time limit on meeting with that business partner. That goes back to sticking to what it is that we need to do. Our business partners are a slew of people. From contractors to inspectors to title reps to you name it, it's there. I think it's important to schedule a meeting, an appointment with some business partners that you are going to be working with, and have some really good questions you're going to ask to make sure that they're the right fit for your clients. Too many times we have a business partner come and get involved, and we feel like that kind of made the deal go south. We want to make sure that they're aligning with our same goals of taking care of the client. Okay. And this goes back to, and this is why I love the community. I'll say it 100 times on this. This goes back to when Greg was on here doing his. Also make sure the business partners you are working with don't have that commission breath, right? We want to make sure that they have the right integrity, intentions, that they are wanting to take care of our clients. And if they have that commission breath, it'll come off. And we don't want that. We want people who are going to take care of those clients. So set those appointments. This one's a real quick and easy one. Time block, lead generate, set your appointments from your lead generation. And then I'm going to move on to the next one unless someone's got to raise their hand or want to say anything about appointments. Boom. Okay. Understand the numbers. This goes back to lead generating, and it's going to go into what the final fourth thing is that is crucial to our business to stop starting over every 3 months. Crucial. Understand the numbers. Some of these have changed a little bit. You guys correct the numbers here. Make sure if you need to. 7 out of 10 FSBOs will use an agent. I'm going to get into how that's going to work for us and why. 8 out of 10 consumers. Now, I don't do spell check, so if you see something, don't worry about it. 8 out of 10 consumers would use the same agent that helped them previously in real estate. And I'll get into what happens later, right? 2 to 4 out of 100 contacts will turn into appointments. Okay, you make 100 contacts. Now, a contact isn't, I called up, hey, Jeff, looks like you were looking at some houses. How you doing? You know what? Leave me alone. Click. That is not a contact. Okay, we can't mark that down and fool ourselves that was a contact. We did not talk about real estate. We did not talk about what it is that they need or want. Even if we have a real estate conversation and at the end of it, they say, it's not going to work for me, and you hang up, that was a contact. You talked about real estate. Okay. 1 out of 2 of the appointments will turn into clients. So these are just a few of the numbers to understand to stop restarting your business over every 3 months. How are these numbers possible? What is the fourth most important thing that we need to do in this business to make it happen? So this next one to me is where I have been lacking on my business, and not anymore. It is not going to happen. It is non-negotiable for me. This morning, JJ and I, when we were in our role play, we decided to implement what I'm going to bring on next month for what we're doing. Because if we don't, then everything we're doing today is not going to work for us. So I think it's the next slide. We'll find out. Okay. Follow up. Who's heard that a million times in their real estate career? right? Follow up. Now it seems redundant. It seems, okay, we talk about this all the time, but can we honestly, you know, I'm reading David Goggins, so be careful. Can we look in the mirror and say, yep, we're doing follow up the way we should be doing it, right? I mean, let's go back to number one. Who in their time block, whatever you use, paper calendar, Google Calendar, whatever it is, who in their time block has follow-up scheduled? I do now, right? Follow-up is key. So here's where I feel like this is one of the most important ones. If I talk to somebody, if I talk to a client and I'm doing lead generating and I have a new client, Jeff and I are going to be working together, it's going to be great, everything else. And I'm like, boom, I secured the client. Nope, no, I did not. I had a great conversation with him and he said he wants to work with me, but I did not secure anything, right? And let's not fool ourselves. We should be doing buyer broker agreements. And even if we have that signed, guess what? We did not secure anything, okay? It's close, but in my opinion, we didn't secure it. Here's what helps us secure it. I talked to Jeff. He wants to do real estate with me. I've set him up in my CRM. I put him on the right campaign. I have follow-up scheduled. I am actively calling him in my follow-up time that I have set to follow up with him to see if there's anything he may want to go look at, right? You can talk to a client in lead generating, but if you don't follow up with them, there's no guarantee they're going to work with you. They're going to end up at an open house 2 weeks later. You haven't talked to them. Next thing you know, they're calling you because they're so excited that the agent there was great and they're writing an offer on that house with that agent. And they want to let you know because they felt they should. So follow-up is huge. Go ahead, Raymond, jump on in.
Sorry, I'll make this real quick.
All good.
Going back to the for sale by owners, as a new agent, you know, I'm waiting for KV Core to kick in and accept and all that other stuff. So I'm actively pulling some of my wholesale strategies, obviously calling up for sale by owners. So some things that I'm doing are like on Facebook for sale by owners. For sale by owners on Facebook is a really good tool that I like to use because it also does the follow up for me. So for instance, when I reach out to those for sale by owners, I'm communicating with them, or I'll have a call with them, or I'll text them, and I'll tell them, hey, you know what? If you want to sell your house for the highest value in a timely manner, you know, I can definitely assist you. And so then they'll say, well, I'm not really interested in it right now, but I'll keep your number. Then the next day, I'll see the price has been reduced by $15,000. I'm like, before you lower it too low, let's have that conversation. And so then in you know, Zillow for sale by owners, I'm having those conversations where, you know, I'll call them up. And yesterday I had a great conversation with a for sale by owner. The owner was, he was in an area where I grew up in, and I knew the area very well. I fished on the docks, like right behind his house. And I drove ATVs in the dunes right down the street from his house. So I had that connection. And he says, you know, all I've been waiting for is a realtor to call me up and to tell me, you know, that they know the area, that my house is really good, and that, you know, how they're going to market it. And you sound like the person we want to work with. So we'll be in touch. And, you know, he that was only just yesterday, so I'm going to let him sleep on it. But, you know, following up is definitely key. But, you know, the Facebook thing, when you start seeing those prices drop on their own without any professional acknowledgement on the actual value of their home, you know, creating those CMAs for them and giving that professional outlook on their properties, I think is definitely key to getting those leads and creating those organic conversations.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And then I'll jump into, you know, since you brought the for sale by owner up, because that was part of what we were talking about with some numbers here. Typically, when you call for sale by owner, or any client for that matter, it's going to take the key is in the follow-up. So when we call for sale by owners, or we have the VA call for sale by owners, we really drive home on, hey, you know what? I'm going to follow up with you. I don't ask if I can. I don't say, do you mind? Right. And I'm not doing this in a mean way, but I say, hey, I'm going to follow up with you maybe next week. Hopefully we've got it sold. If not, I just want to see how you're doing. Okay. They say, okay. And then we go back. Now we've got to follow up with them because I've seen it in the past. This happened. We went to Las Vegas for EXPCon. There was a couple of for sale by owners that I called that they said, no, we're not interested. We're going to do this on our own. The first day I was back in the office, both those for sale by owners had listed with another agent. And guess what? That agent called them and followed up with them. So it was an eye opener. We've got to follow up with this. Okay. So I put in here a lot of things for follow. And it's one of the ones I put in here was credit challenge. Just because somebody can't buy right now does not mean that they may not deserve the follow-up from us. Okay. There should be a campaign with someone who's actively working on their credit to buy a home. Because some of these people, you know, they think they can't buy. We get them connected with the right lender. They say we can do a rescore when they pay off $600 in debt, and then we can get them qualified. Well, you know, have a campaign or whatever works for you, but follow up with those clients. Hey, Jeff, listen, man, I just wanted to follow up with you. I know that we connected with the lender. They gave us some tools on what we needed to do. How's it going, man? I really want to help you become a homeowner. You know, follow up with them. Here's what happens. Jeff never gets it together, never pays anything off, never does it, but I'm following up with him. And then all of a sudden, Jeff's like, hey, man, a friend of mine's actually going to sell their home. You think you can give him a call? I usually say no because I'm too busy, right? But, you know, that's what happens when we do this follow-up. They'll end up giving us referrals too. And then these people, they will turn into buyers. To me, once somebody has put into their head, you know, I got this from car sales and now here into real estate. There's times I've written offers with clients that I know was more than likely not going to happen. Now I was upfront with that client and I said, hey, listen, I've already got word from the other agent that they have an offer that's higher. And I just want to make sure you're okay if they come back with this and they reject it. And they say, yep, I'm okay. I'm okay. Usually what I'll say to them is, listen, it's up against multiple offers. If they do reject this and they go with another offer, I need you to say to yourself that you would not have offered a penny more than what we're offering today, that you would be okay with that. Now we write the offer. We already know they got something higher. To me, even though I know that it may not get accepted, I still write the offer as long as I'm educating that client, right? Because now they have mentally committed to buying a home. You know, they've signed documents. They are waiting for an answer. They may not have believed what I said. Now, after that one, they're like, okay, what do we have to do next? You know, it's in the follow-up, following up with these clients, following up with, let me get back to the screen share. Your sphere, your CRM can do a lot of this for you, okay? Leverage that off. Your CRM will remind you when you should be calling your sphere, your friends, just to say hi, and it doesn't need to be real estate related. You just want to, it's top of mind. That's what we're doing with a lot of this follow-up. We're reminding them that we still do real estate, not by saying we do it, but just by following up with them. And that conversation will organically turn into real estate. You want to follow up with your vendors. I want to know what's going on new with the vendors. I don't want to find out that they're doing something different than what they were doing because a client told me. I want to know that they're doing it before the client tells me, because maybe it's not something that I feel is best for our clients. So follow up with them. Hey, are we still doing this? What's going on? Follow up with other agents, right? If an agent, here's a big one to me. A lot of these are big ones. I'm just going to say every single one I talk about is a big one. So when you're following up with agents, here's a big one. And it's just really a matter of integrity, respect. After you show an agent's listing, time block out when you're going to respond to these agents. It doesn't matter if it's good, bad, or ugly. What I do, if I'm going to go show 2 or 3 homes and I'm going to be done by noon, I let all those agents know when they've confirmed the showing that I will give them feedback by 5 p.m. because I'm showing properties. Now, what does that do? That gives me more than enough time to make sure I can get that back. So follow up with your feedback, follow up with agents on transactions, follow up with everything you've got going on in your business. That is key. Lenders, follow up with the lenders. If they email you what's going on, that's great, but still follow up with them. Hey, I got the email. We're still on track. What's going on? The key to our business is in follow up. Now, here's the deal. If you time block, you do lead generating, and you go on appointments, you'll be a pretty great agent. You will make money. You'll help clients. It'll be phenomenal. But if you want to start restarting your business every 3 months, follow up is where it's at. Because if we have 100 clients that we have sold in the past, and we are following up with them like we've been taught, like we know, like we've heard a million times, we wouldn't have to do so much lead generating anymore because they're going to be sending us referrals. So, you know, what we're working on with our follow-up is a Monday and Friday. You don't have to have a reason to follow up with a current client. You don't have to have a house that's on the market. You don't have to have something new. But if I just follow up, I say, hey, Jeff, I know we talked on Monday. There was nothing that was going on then. I do want to follow up with you. I want to let you know that I did look at for sale by owners. I did look what's new and what's coming up. And so far, I haven't found anything. But real quick, because sometimes I might miss something, is there anything that you found? You know, that's the follow-up. And now they know that you're the one that's working for them. I'm going to throw something out there that we've done in the past for clients and we're doing now. If you have a client that's looking for a home, I encourage you to get into your MLS and look at expired homes and put the criteria of what they're looking at in there and help find that home, and don't wait for it to come up on the market. So anything on follow-up before I move on? We've got about 12 minutes left, but this one is really big. We've got to follow up.
Yeah, Jason, first off, I love this concept. And, we all have heard kind of follow-up is the secret sauce, but I just want to give kind of some additional credence to this. I had an amazing opportunity to do a coaching session with a super top producing coach back when I first started in real estate. And I remember he told me something I would never forget, which is he had studied, he had probably coached north of 10,000 real estate agents. It was unreal. And so he had so much data and knowledge just from 50 years in the industry, et cetera, et cetera. I'd run one of the top coaching companies in the world. And he said, listen, the average agent out there, if they simply made follow-up really important in their business, would be doing 10 to 20 times more transactions. So I just want to say 10 to 20 times more transactions. And it has to do with the fact that one person said, yeah, well, we may be doing something next year. And then you forget about them and do nothing. And they do that thing next year that they were all talking about. And so the question is, what's happening to all of that in like, grocery stores, we call it breakage. It's like if I was bringing in a pallet of pickles and 10 pickle jars fell off, right? That'd be a bummer. But imagine if I brought in 500 pickle jars and 450 of them fell off, or 475 of them fell off and just broke all over the floor. How would I feel as the store owner? But that's what's happening in the average agent's business. Anybody on this call could go from where you're standing to absolutely number one status by simply making follow up your game, but you have to decide to tame the beast, right? And that it's a process. And so you can't expect it all from yourself in day one. You have to give yourself a little bit of grace. And then guess what? You develop a process and a system, and then you use tools and technology, hopefully, to back it up. It's one thing I love about EXP is we get KV Core included with the brokerage. It's an incredible tool, but not only is it an incredible tool, you're surrounded by top producers who all use it to do huge transactional volume. So now you're able to get top level training, production, and experience, expertise around how to do that. So I couldn't agree more. This is a great topic, man. Really loving it.
Yeah. And once again, this is, and you just remind me of something that I was like, I'm going to say no matter what. And I almost forgot to say, but this is things we already know, right? It's just reiterating. That's why people go to Bold. That's why we go to EXPCon. That's why we go to these different events. It's to get fired up again on what we know we need to do in our business. Well, here's what's helped me stay fired up is I've time blocked the community for next week and the week after and the week after, right? Like this right here is what helps remind me of what we need to do in our business. So when we talk about that follow-up, and then I'll move on, we got a few minutes left here. If someone says that they're not looking to do anything until the summertime, hey, no problem, Joanne. I completely agree. I get that. Listen, here's what I want to do. I'm going to follow up with you between now and then, maybe once a month, because if you have any questions on the market, I want you to be able to know and trust me to be considered to be the agent to help you. Don't wait until summertime to call her. Don't wait until summertime to call them, because you're going to call them and they're so excited. Oh my gosh, Jason, thanks for calling me. We just went under contract with the greatest agent I ever met. And I'm like, I should have followed up with them once a month. And guess what? Everything that we do, every task that we do has a dollar amount on it, right? That's what it comes. Yes, it's not all about the money. Integrity has to be there, right? The people that are all about the money, it filters off, right? They end up, it works itself out. But you have to understand every activity that you're doing has a dollar amount. And if it took me 6 calls to Joanne once a month until summertime got here, and it was 5 to 10 minutes per call, that 1 hour of follow-up throughout that 6 months has given me the opportunity. That doesn't mean I have it because I did that. It's given me the opportunity to be the agent that she's going to reach out to. So don't, if someone says a year from now, 2 years from now, 6 months from now, I'm not buying until I'm 41 and they're 22. No problem. I'm going to follow up with you, because guess what? I'll follow up with Joanne and she'll say, hey, listen, I'm not ready yet, but my neighbor, Jeff Richmond, he needs to sell his house. And I'll say, well, I know the name, so I'm probably going to refer that one off. However, I appreciate that, but that's why we do this follow-up. Okay. So I'm going to go back to share screen. Thanks. I want to throw in a couple of jokes. I'm not really a jokester type of guy. So Thanks for bearing with me.
That was a good one.
Yeah, it was actually very true, Joanne. Very true. So, you know, why do we start our business over? Here's some of the reasons why. We get something under contract and now we're excited. We've got something under contract, right? You know, our last community that we're in, we put all of our eggs in that basket. We're under contract. We're excited. We think it takes up 6 hours a day to take care of that. It doesn't. Leverage that off. Get a TC. You got to have one. A TC will, I don't care if they do 1 hour worth of work. That 1 hour, you could have been generating more business, right? That's just my opinion. We stop lead generating. The biggest one here is we get something under contract and we think we're good, right? We stop lead generating. We don't check our calendar nightly, whatever that calendar might be. Check it for the next day so that you're ready and you're prepared for success. We answer unnecessary calls. We don't stick to our schedule. We try to change too many things at once. This goes back to what Joe was saying. You know, if you're going to pick something, pick it, learn it, know it, do it, and just that is your thing to do. But if you're going to get off this call and you're going to say, I'm going to make 20 calls a day, I'm going to do 6 open houses, I'm going to send out 47 emails. You know, if you try to do all of this, it's not going to be sustainable, right? So we try to pick too many things to change our business. We don't leverage off the non-money making activities. Now, if we don't want to get a TC, we don't want to get a VA, all of that's fine. But the biggest leverage tool we have is our CRM. That is our huge, which we have it. I'm not going to say it's free. I'm getting away from that. We pay a small dollar amount per month and we have a CRM. Phenomenal. Leverage that CRM off. Have it doing the non-money making activities for you, sending out those emails, those reminders, all of that stuff. So that the biggest one on here is that we get 1 or 2 under contract. We're super excited. You know, we're going to make some money, whatever the case is. One of them terminates and now we're scrambling around. So this right here is a quote. I got an email back when I was 18. So like 4 years ago that I've had that whole time. And it was thankyoucan@yahoo.com. Mindset. It all comes down to mindset. All of us can do these things. All of us can be wherever we want to be in 12 months. If we have the right mindset, here's the saying, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. It's very simple. Whatever we have in here, it's going to manifest. So anybody have any questions? We have a few minutes left. I appreciate everybody's time. This is important to me to be able to be a part of this. That got long-winded. I almost ran out of breath. So that's what happened.
Oh my gosh, this is awesome, Jason. And first off, I love that the Henry Ford quote there, because it's so true, right? The most important real estate any of us ever will deal with is the 6 inches between our ears, or 7.5 for me. I've got an extra large noggin, I think, to buy XL hats, and I don't even have hair. So, but I will say this. First off, I would absolutely work with Joanne, no problem. Little offended that you'd be referring me out, but I get it. At least I know she'd follow up with me, which is incredible. But what great stuff today. And by the way, somebody put in the chat today if you got at least one nugget today that you know will put extra deals on the plate for you. If you got at least one. I've got Joanne, I've got Raymond, I've got me for sure, I've got Chris, lots of them, right? Exactly. Amber, Chad, Liz, boom, Liz says nuggets. I like it. Jay for sure. Colleen. So Jason, you're delivering the goods. And what's amazing about this is sometimes when we say, oh, we're getting back to fundamentals, sometimes people think, oh, fundamentals, it's got the word fun in it, so it can't be serious. Listen, some of the very top sports teams on the planet on day one of every single season go all the way back to tying their shoes. I mean, and that's not a joke. That's like real talk. Why do we have to circle back to these? Because these are the things that if that foundation isn't there, right? We're all in real estate. If the foundation is shot, how's the house doing? Everyone tell me on that one. House is great. Yeah, don't worry, but don't look at the foundation, right? That's an all cash sale. Trust me, it'll be great. I promise. Yeah, don't worry about the hill sliding down behind it. This is foundational to our business. If you're not following up, you're not running a business yet. You're just chasing your tail. Maybe every once in a while your tail's got a couple dollars attached to it and you happen to get some so you can buy dinner. But I'm just telling you, if you're not doing that, you're chasing your tail. If you allow that endless cycle of up, down in real estate, to run your whole world. Now I've got one under contract. I'll care for it like it's my precious from The Ring or something, you know. No, it's so silly. That's dumb. Like, do you need to take care of your current clients? Obviously. Do your escrows need to be tended to get to closing? Obviously. But if you get one under contract and you think now you've made it and you wait 45 days to start lead genning again, that means you're going to wait 45 days to start, plus then however long it takes for you to find the next client, plus the entire closing cycle. It'll be 4 to 5 months before you close another deal. And so what I love about this is it answers that. It says, look, even while you think you're up, lead generate. When you think you're down, lead generate. When you're on the way up, lead generate. When you're on the way down, meaning you're closing transactions, lead generate. And that's what makes these peaks and valleys that agents complain about go away, or at least get smaller, and you raise the average. And that's what I was hearing you say today, Jason. It was genius. I can see that Joanne has her hand up, so I want to get out of her way because I know she's going to have something more important than what I just said. What's up, Joanne?
Well, okay, so Henry Ford's famous for saying, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So I'm about to coin my quote. Hopefully I'll be famous for this. It's been the big aha. Whether you think it's fun or you think it's not fun, you're right. So, I mean, when I see here fundamentals, I mean, I can make fundamentals fun. I'm not going to do anything that isn't fun. So for me, I'm just going to have to make this stuff fun. I mean, I can't change myself to be a drudgery, grueling, you know, workhorse, just get down. You know, I'm not going to be that. But if I can do it in a fun way and make it fun, even though it's hard, then, you know, I mean, that's how I work. So for people that are I personalities, we're never going to go do the C stuff. We're not, unless we can find a way to make it fun. So that's going to be my new mindset, is that if I can make it fun, because I'm going to think it's fun if I want it to be fun.
Real quick, Joanne, before we jump off, I'm trying to look up how to copyright a saying. How can I do that?
I think it's, since it's on tape, you know.
Darn it.
I can prove that I was first.
Well, everybody, once again, the reason that I show up, this is me personally, is because I know that this has been an impact for my business. It reiterates, it reminds me of what I need to do. I'm grateful to be surrounded by all of you guys, be in the position that we're at. So I encourage everybody to keep showing up, keep asking questions. What can we do to grow? Stick to the basics. If you're ever thinking that there's something that you need to do or reinvent your business, just go back to the 4 things that highly successful agents have done for many years. I joked around when I started this about the secrets. Here's the one real secret. Top producing agents are consistently doing the same activity that produces for them. That's it. You know, so everybody, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Everybody have a great week.